clubs from 144 countries. Wow, that's amazing. Let's welcome Raghu, Evaluate with Empathy. Evaluate with Empathy. Let's welcome Raghu to the stage.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster of the day. Just to clarify the air timer, please note the timing is 20 to 30 minutes. 20, 25, 30 is the timings as we discussed. Okay, talking about evaluation with empathy or the feedback in general. Before we even go to the topic, I want you to look into this Toastmaster promise, rather any Toastmaster. The only one promise, of course. Then I want to highlight this statement from the Toastmaster promise, where we promise everyone this one to provide fellow members with helpful constructive evaluations. But is that true? Does it happen every time? I've given speeches in several clubs and they were worst evaluation. They were demotivating evaluation. They were best evaluation. And there are several things. Some people who assume something, sometimes they just made statement that I was reading from the script, though there was no scope for it. Sometimes they made some vague thing. They didn't even think about it. You are 3 times GTM. You need to do that. So does it help? So now coming back to a question, why? Why do you think we should do evaluation? Why is the feedback important for us? Does someone want to answer that?
So we can get better, improve our speeches.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, I think for new members that they're so concerned and worried and they put themselves down for all the little things that it really helps as a new speaker to hear really good feedback that tells you that you're on the right track, that you're doing a good job to encourage them to do more speeches and to get over their fear of speaking.
Thank you. So,
I think it forces you to listen more carefully to what the person is saying in the meeting that's getting across. And it also provides the speaker with the ability to know how they're being received.
wonderful. Thank you. So it's two-way street. Both the people learn and earn something, right? The person who is evaluating get to listen and their active listening skills improve. Another person who gets the feedback should be enriched with the knowledge how to become better. Thank you very much for all of your answers. But right now, let's look at the agenda for today's meeting. We'll look at why, and then that we all discussed now. Second thing is understand the radical Candor compass. Third thing is magical I statements, system and structure, feedback, superlatives and rambling, practice, and what to evaluate, what not to evaluate. And the last thing is question answers. Now that we understood about why, let's look into the radical Candor compass. Now I want all of you to go back to your high school mathematics. X and Y axis. Simple X and Y axis. Now on X axis, you are silent to where you challenge directly. That's your X axis. And Y axis, from don't care to care, right? So let's understand what kind of feedback are the categories of feedback that we can give to people. Now you love somebody so much that you keep quiet irrespective of the mistakes that they do, irrespective of how they are doing in their life. Most of the time it's the parents, the close friends who don't bother to help the friend. This happens in Toastmasters too. Rather, today we are not just going to talk in just Toastmasters. We are just going to broaden ourselves in a way that we'll see into this at a level where we are in our personal life, professional life, what happens in different levels. Just go beyond Toastmasters and look into these things. Now, at least in the modern parenting, now I'm not leaving how my parents were, but at least now the parents are spoiling kids with too much of freedom and then all the things that they do. They're ruining with the ruinous empathy because they keep silent, they keep mum for whatever the kids are doing. It's happening across the world. Now, does that help the child? Now, let us say you're a close friend. Let us say I'm a close friend to Lisa. Lisa is giving some speech. And if I don't give her proper feedback, can I challenge her? Maybe Lisa is evaluating me just because I'm friend to her. If she is not giving feedback, can I ever find what are the shortcomings in my speech or how am I not doing well in my job or anywhere else? Right? It is a ruinous empathy for a reason that it doesn't help the person, rather ruins the person because the person gets spoiled. They do just keep doing the things, or sometimes they just leave doing things because they don't know where they're going. The second thing is you have something to get out of me. So you just keep mum because you think you will spoil the relationship because you have something to get out of me, and then you have, or rather not now, maybe in future you think why to spoil relation with Raghu. Maybe at some point of time he will be some use to me. It happens in most of the life, like whether it's a workplace, whether it is a professional way with your relatives or anywhere else. Does it help again? No, you are again not challenging me, not giving me feedback, again keeping silent. So this causes mistrust. The next thing is obnoxious aggression. Many times it is bosses, other parents, sometimes. Keep shouting, keep being obnoxious to the person, or rather challenging them directly because you don't care at all. You don't care how they feel about it. Now, I still remember a feedback that I received in a club in San Jose. Now, San Jose Toastmaster. So I was giving a speech. After the speech, there were several anonymous feedback that you get from each member. One lady, she left her name too, and she didn't keep it anonymous, but she told, I didn't understand a single statement that you have made in your speech. I didn't understand anything in your speech. That day, I felt it was obnoxious. I really wanted to quit speaking in any other club outside India. But though I thought about it for a couple of days and then started working on my pronunciation and also pauses. The same lady, after 2 months, when I repeat and I gave a different speech, she said that she could understand and also felt it was a good speech. And that there's a different scenario, but most of the times people quit. We are obnoxious. Thing is, you're challenging them directly, but not giving feedback that can help. And also, just because you, just because you're being aggressive, they might just go inside themselves, just like the tortoise, and then they are either quitting or either just start defending themselves. That doesn't help. And the best thing is sorry, where you care about the person and they're being kind to them and giving direct feedback, but at the same time, you're showing them what are their strengths and what are the improvement areas. And then you are being specific on that and same time also showing them how they can do it. But that's a radical condor because you care about the person, but same time you are challenging them. This helps the person to improve a lot. Now let's look into this other one where ruinous empathy doesn't change, rather it ruins the personality of the person. So the manipulative insincerity is where which causes mistrust. I still remember in my childhood, few of my relatives used to do that. They used to speak something in before me and then something behind me. Now that caused a mistrust. This caused mistrust. And then I stopped trusting people. If anybody even praised me, then I don't even trust people who praise me just before me because I don't trust anyone. That caused trust issues with me. This happens with people too, right? And obnoxious aggression causes make people go defensive. They start defending of what they have done. They will not even hear more because you're oppressing them so much that they come to a point where they just defend themselves. They're not even ready to take the feedback anymore. The last one, radical condor, it causes profound change where people know what are their strengths because you're given them, and the continuous feedback helps them to improve better, and they know what are the improvement areas and start working on that because you care for them. Same time, you're not leaving the space of challenging them. Now we have understood about radical condor. Before I move to the next step, any questions on radical condor? Hearing none, I'll move to the next step. Is what to evaluate. Now, when it comes to speeches, what to evaluate are three different parts. First thing is speech content. Lisa, you have a question?
Well, you asked for a question, so I have one. How do you, I guess I'm wanting to know how to come across as having sincere radical candor.
Okay. You are being sincere in helping the speaker rather than just trying to judge the person, rather trying to be obnoxious. So we'll discuss more how the evaluation can turn into a way where you can make it smooth and also help the person to understand. At the same time, you're not being obnoxious, but same time you're challenging. Both of them matters. How you are cushioning your feedback enough for the person to get the feedback and helping them to improve.
Thank you.
We'll discuss more in the next steps. Thank you for asking the question. Now, what are things that you can evaluate? First thing is your speech content. The content of the speech, as they keep saying, the content is the king. And even when it comes to judges' ballot, content takes 50% of the ballot, 50% of marks in the ballot. Second thing is speech delivery. How the delivery was there, whether how the body language is, stage usage, eye contact, the pauses, rate of speech, clarity of language, etc. The third thing is impact. Impact means how did the audience feel about it? How did you feel about it? All that matters, right? So next comes to I statements. One thing that you need to remember is feedback is your personal opinion. You are not a judge on the seat to judge somebody. You don't have right to judge anybody. It is only your personal opinion, which is why you need to be clear on the statements. Now, this is the answer to your question, Lisa. I statements. This is a disclaimer in itself when you are giving I statements saying that I felt, I heard, I saw, that I'm confused. All these statements is a disclaimer in itself saying that it is my personal opinion and I don't mean to judge you, right? It itself is a cushion where you are making the person feel good about it because he was giving this disclaimer in the statements. Now, what are the statements? Some examples of the statement. Okay. Now, when you're making simple observations, you can say, I heard, I felt, I noticed. I heard a wonderful speech today from Toastmaster Lisa. I felt empathetic or something. I felt happy hearing your speech today. I noticed that the speaker was moving across the stage, which made an impact. Something that you want to reinforce a positive impact. I like the way the speaker has mentioned about different aspects of life. I love the usage of different words in speaker speech today. I love the descriptive language that the speaker has used to enhance the speech. I enjoyed the usage of storytelling, the way that the speaker has used storytelling to enhance the speech. Now, something that was distracting or detracting in the speech when mentioned that I was confused by the usage of several stories that I was not able to relate to the topic of the day. I didn't understand when you just move from one story to another, how did they connect to the speech? I dislike the way that you have used, or rather, you have talked about sex and politics in a derogatory manner, and I feel offended by it. I wanted to, for example, you're talking about how speech can become better. I wanted to know more about you, but I didn't find your personal stories. I like to see you giving more personal stories rather than just some other story. I love to hear more about your friend, what happened in the story, something like that. These are the examples of I statements. Remember, simple observations, reinforcing positive impact, or detracting or distracting moments, are to help them to see how they can make the speech more effective. Next thing is, how do you market? System is plus something the speaker has did something speaker did effectively. Question mark is where you confuse something that speaker can do more effective. And then minus is where the speaker, the improvement areas for the speaker. And the star is when the wow factor. Now let me share some of my notes, how I do it. Let me share my screen. Now, okay. This is how I make my notes. Now I have the speaker name here, also the whatever speech they're practicing and the speech title. This is how I do it. Postures, what are the things that they did effectively, the improvement areas, and then I use this for wow factor or challenges. Like, and then this is something I find confusing, and these are something I do trivial text. Now from this list, I identify, so I have a long list. I do not go by just the laundry list. I will identify what are the exact areas that I need to talk about, rather important things to mention in that evaluation speech, and then talk about it. I'll come to that the next part. But right now, like any other speech, your evaluation is a speech, and it should have introduction, body, and summary. Let's understand what you can have in each part of it. Now, your introduction is how the speech has affected you. Either you make a connection with the speaker and the speech and try to address the audience, or you can also address the speaker. There are two types of evaluation style. One thing is where you address the audience, or when you address the speaker itself. So here it is an opportunity to connect with the speech, where you say, how did it impact you? Now coming to body, you talk about two things that the speaker did effectively. Sometimes you can also make it three. When it comes to improvements, the two things that the speaker can improve, make it only two. And one wow factor, the best thing that happened in the speech. Two or three things that the speaker did effectively, only two improvement areas, and one wow factor that the speaker did. And last thing is summary. Don't forget to do that. Now, even in your evaluation contest, this takes 15 marks. And that shows summary is for reinforcing your feedback, saying that these are the positive, these are the improvement areas. But remember one thing, your evaluation has to end in a positive note, because your goal is to motivate the speaker not to demotivate and not to become a judge in a show. Feedback is again your opinion only. You need to have that in mind. Your opinion only, and your I statements are going to enforce that. You must have why and how in the feedback that you're giving. Why did you think it made a positive impact? You think is effective. Why do you think there is an improvement areas? And then tell how the speaker can improve. Show it. That makes it an effective feedback. An ideal feedback should have specific example. I cannot just come say that you had so many grammatical mistakes. You use lot of good words. Give examples to it. That will show that you are sincerely listening to the speech. Do not use superlatives, something that sometimes people use. And these superlatives are mostly used when you are giving generic feedback when you didn't listen to the speech. Try to not use superlatives, especially this happens in non-English speaking countries. Rather, when the English is a second language, people start using superlatives because those superlatives are part of your culture or your language. So try not to use superlatives. Now, rambling, do not keep talking for less and some because you just have 3.5 minutes. So try to use that effectively. Do not beat around the bush. Now, do not try to summarize the speech. Everybody in the room has listened to the speech. Do not try to summarize it. Now, what to evaluate, what not to evaluate. What to evaluate exactly is your vocal variety of the speaker, whether they were using voice to enhance the emotions in a speech, gesture, hand gestures, pauses, the pauses to enhance the speech. Were you able to listen to the speech? If they're going just fast, you don't listen, right? The rate of speech, was it better or not? Are they making effective pauses for you to enhance the speech where you're able to listen properly? Content is the main part. How was the content? You can just talk about it. How was the structure and everything? Role play. If they use role play, did it enhance the speech or did it just distract the the listeners? Prop. If they have used any props in there, first line, last line. First line meant to rather this is something a structure normally. Tell the people what you're going to speak. Tell them and tell them what you're told. Is the structure being followed? Is the opening effective enough to let people know? Or is it something that's not making sense at all to the topic of the day, right? And then last line, whether the speaker was effective enough to connect back to the opening, connect back to the topic, were they able to make that impact? Comfort of the person, whether he was comfortable with the audience. How was he doing? As he just just like not able to speak or not able to be open to the audience. It also matters. Audience awareness. Now I need to understand my audience. I need to make questions and understand how should I speak? How should I customize my speech enough so that audience understand, try to understand the dynamics of the audience. Clarity of the language, which includes my rate of speech, my grammar, and other part, because I should speak clear enough for the audience to understand. Preparation, whether you felt the speaker prepared well, or whether he is referring to the notes, or whether he is stumbling between or trying to recollect the line, right? The last is call for action, whether the speaker made call for action properly so that we get a message as an audience. These are some things that you can evaluate. Now remember, radical candor for where you care about the speaker and same time challenge them directly. I statement, disclaimer that you are only giving your personal opinion and not judging. Last thing is feedback with a positive note because your goal is to help the speaker to become better, not to judge them. Remember, evaluate with empathy because you want to help the speaker become better, a better version of themselves on the journey of public speaking. And with that note, I'm open for questions. Go ahead, Anne-Marie.
Thank you. Thank you. I was always told that, and I loved all the points that you brought up. That's fantastic. Very, very good presentation. I was always told that we use the sandwich technique when evaluating as well. You first give some positive feedback, then go into the constructive criticism, talk about what can be improved based on those examples that you gave, and then you close with something positive. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I think the technique I mentioned is similar to the sandwich methodology. But thing is, does sandwich method work? Because people are clever enough. One thing is, doesn't matter which technique are using. Are you sincere or not? Because in the century that we are living in, people are clever enough to understand your intention, right? Your body language, the way that you are beaming on, everything matters. That makes an impact, whether you are sincere or not. End of day, are you sincere enough to help that person or I've seen feedback where they keep saying, you are a public speaker, you are going to be a champion on the stage and blah, 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 all that superlatives. But that doesn't help. Now you have to be sincere enough and same time challenging enough for the speaker. So use properly those statements. And as I said, the third one can be a wow factor or challenge, depending upon how the speech went. Sometimes there are worse days, sometimes there are worse speeches too. But how do you challenge it? For example, I was in a contest where the speaker was just reading all the notes, just reading from notes and then just doing it. Does that help? No. So what I told is, my dear friend, this is your speech. You just don't have to refer to notes because this is your speech and I don't know what you're going to speak. And I don't care about it because it is a personal story. So start narrating it. You don't have to refer to notes. Because you are referring to notes, you are not able to make eye contact and your rate of speech was fast. I was kind enough. So I was challenging and same time I was making a point, my point that you should not refer to notes and keep reading from it. Right? So the third thing can vary, a wow factor or a challenge. So you can decide on the spot, which is why you need to also enhance your improper speaking skills by doing it. I don't make any further notes other than Excel now. There's a point of time where I used to make all the notes that I was going to speak, but now just the point and then build my speech over it.
Thank you very much. Well
Thank
done.
you. Stella?
Thank you, Raghu. That was one of the best evaluation technique speeches I've heard. I wanted to ask a question. What about if the speaker is perfect, let's say? Because I've seen some speakers that are really good. Must you always have a negative thing to say about someone based on Toastmasters, an area of improvement? Or should you just stick to the positives if you don't really see anything wrong with the speech?
Okay. Again, your listening skills. There's no perfect speech in the world. So that you must go with. So it's okay you don't listen in that, but always look into the content. Most of the those so-called perfect speeches, they lack in the content. So try to look into that part. Try to listen carefully. You will always find something. But if you don't find anything, be sincere enough to admit that I didn't find any room of improvement and then just go on with it instead of giving anything obvious. But then always listen carefully. There's something other thing that you find, mostly in the content. Sometimes translation, sometimes the story, sometimes they do not add any personal part of it. These days, people are just getting the speech from ChatGPT, which obviously will not have personal impact, personal stories. Probably you can talk on that, right?
Right. Thank you so much.
Frank, you had a question?
Well, I like the part where you emphasize the I words. And I know in our gang, we quite often hear the word you used in the evaluation towards the speaker. And that's that's something I think what you're mentioning to be just as stick with I words. I think, I feel, and I don't know where all the yous came from, but it's like, well, do you have a comment about that?
That's a tendency, I would say. It's a tendency when you keep saying it, you use and everything. But then we need to shift to I statements. There's a common tendency when we say that you, it happens with everybody. So we need to practice it when I saying that I felt, I saw, I hear.
Mhm.
That's the goal. Does
Raghu,
it answer? Yes, Goj.
hi. I will say that this was a very informative and very interesting presentation. That your points are something that someone should consider when writing a speech or writing a news article. That you need to be able to be aware of putting together your presentation or a news article. I learned all of this in my journalism classes. And this is something that we thought about when putting together a news article. And what one should consider is all of these points, and I can't remember them all, is that you have to get your point across and do it in a certain way. And other than that, this is something that is very familiar that I've heard in the past. The other thing I wanted to say is your use of heard. In the U.S. English language, we don't use I heard. I heard. My mind is going at this point, but it is I heard instead of I heard. And that is something just to be aware of. In use in U.S. use of that word. And it is just something that sort of sent me, red flags came up. Anyway, thank you. It was a great speech.
Thank you, George. I'll improve my pronunciation. I'm working with Lisa on that. Okay, thank you very much for all your questions and all your feedback.
Can I add one more? Yeah, I know you said Lisa's helping you with the pronunciation, but and because you said somebody when you gave a speech in California, somebody didn't understand a word you said, and I thought about it, and I said I was trying to pay attention to that, and what I noticed was you used the word this, like DIS instead of this, and it I think the TH comes through a lot clearer instead of using a D instead of the TH. So, that may help us Americans hear you more distinctly, which is really nice because you do have your accent's very sweet. And it's just that like you said, when somebody is not used to hearing it, I worked at IBM and I heard accents from the people I worked with were from all over, and you had to rearrange your thinking. So anyhow, I would if that's enough. I said enough. I appreciate
We
you.
actually have to move on. Sorry. Great
you very
job,
much.
Raghu, as always. Thank you for doing this workshop, this evaluation workshop, which is definitely needed as we all want to become better evaluators because we're here to improve. So that was definitely great information. We'll be sharing the recording, but if you want to share any information in chat for anybody how to reach you, share your information. in the chat as well. So thank you so much, Raghu. I appreciate everything and your time tonight. So moving